chemist spirits are the cure for the common cocktail.
We really looked at a wine that would go well for people who are pursuing an active and healthy lifestyle.
Gin and tonic in an 8-ounce can.
Dedication to our craft for over 165 years. It's no wonder that we brought this amazing liquid to the United States.
The idea of aging in Cabernet cask is very unique.
De Nord is a place where people feel safe, where they feel welcome, where they feel wanted.
And decided to create an organic vodka through a premium lens.
The recipe that is genuinely history in a bottle.
We started making spirits to share our appreciation for quality whiskey and the Central Coast.
Salute. Cheers.
This wine pairs with everything.
We've always loved to bring people together over great drinks because we know that cocktails are the ultimate social connector.
Pink Pig is a premium añejo cristalino that is shattering expectations.
Welcome to the Whiskey, Scotch, and Bourbon competition in the 2021 WSWA Brand Battle Tournament. This is the alcohol industry's premier pitch competition. My name is Michelle Korsmo, and I'm the president and CEO of the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers of America. Our association is proud to represent the companies that bring brands to market. Working with both the producers and the retailers, wholesalers build expertise in what works. They know what's appealing to customers. They know what labels make the difference in attractiveness. They know how to fill out portfolios and how to market brands. And this brand battle has been a terrific way to see the wholesalers at work and get a picture behind their thinking. I know for all of the brands that have been watching our wholesalers, you join me in learning something different every week. I am really excited about today's contenders. This is a fantastic category with so much interest. But first, I would like to thank our tournament sponsors. 750 Beverage Media Group is the WSWA Tournament Media Partner. They have highlighted the tournament and engaged with our contenders and winners throughout the summer, and it has been a terrific partnership. 750 Beverage Media has been a longtime supporter of WSWA and its various programs, and we are so thankful for their continued support. Our other tournament sponsors include Beverage Brand Ambassador Academy, The Cocktail Guru, London Essence, Gap Promotions, Low and No Beverage Summit, and the Wine Industry Network. Thank you to everyone for helping make this brand battle tournament possible. It has been a terrific summer. Today, you will be hearing from 6 different whiskey, Scotch, and bourbon brands who will spend a few minutes each presenting information about their products. After each presentation, the judges will have a few minutes to ask questions and provide feedback. I encourage all of you watching to add your own questions and thoughts in the chat box at the bottom of the screen. We will try to answer all questions that come in today through the tournament. At the end of the competition, we are going to announce our category winner from our wholesaler judges' votes, and also the People's Choice winner for this category, who's selected by all of you, our virtual audience we have tuning in to today's competition. The Judges' Choice winner will move on to the championship round in September. Now, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel of wholesaler judges participating. Together, this group of wholesalers represents businesses varying in size from across the country and bringing over 100 years of combined experience and expertise to the wine and spirits industry. These industry leaders are always looking for the next up-and-coming brand. I'm so excited to introduce our judges today. First up, we have Sly Cosmopoulos. Sly is the Director of Beverage Marketing for the Republic National Distributing Company, managing the beverage marketing division for all channels, customers, and consumer markets across the United States. Sly provides strategic leadership that encompasses mixology, supplier business development, brand activation, national accounts drink strategy, new brand onboarding, and program development. It is so great to have you participate with us again, Sly. Next, from Winebow, we have Monique Houston. Monique began her spirits career over 2 decades ago at the Dundee Dell in Omaha, Nebraska. Here, she helped build and educate across one of the largest whiskey and spirits collections in the world. An avid spokesperson and educator, Monique has served as a spirits judge and panelist at events and competitions around the world and been featured in the Whiskey Advocate, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. Her passion for whiskey has led her to deep exploration of the incredible terroir-driven spirits of Mexico, her second great love. Currently, Monique is the Vice President, Spirits Portfolio for the Winebow Fine Wine and Spirits. Glad to have you back for a second time as a judge, Monique. Next, we have Natalie Cardenas. Natalia. Natalia is currently the Beverage Development Manager at Breakthrough Beverage. Natalia is a Bar 5-day graduate, is a certified spirits specialist, a certified WSET Level 2 in wine and spirits, as well as a WSET Level 2 in spirits, and passed the Court of Master Sommelier's introductory course. Natalia is recognized in leading spirits trade publications such as the Tasting Panel magazine and Bar Business magazine for her industry knowledge and creativity behind the bar. Welcome, Natalia. Our next judge is the Chief Operating Officer from Best Brands, Inc., Ryan Moses. In this role, Ryan actively seeks and finds new supplier partners along with managing the day-to-day operations of the company and its strategic direction. As a fourth-generation business owner, Ryan understands the importance of continuing a family legacy and continual evolution as the marketplace and consumer choices change over time. Thank you again for participating, Ryan. Gerald Boyd Jr. is our next featured wholesaler. Gerald serves as the VP of Product Selection for Legacy Partners and sits on the Legacy Partners Distribution Board of Directors. Gerald has more than 20 years of experience in business development and extensive knowledge of liquor product sales, project management, brand development, and marketing. Welcome, Gerald. So glad to have you with us. Our final judge for today's tournament is Patrick Gaggiano. Patrick has over 12 years in the bar and cocktail industry, spanning across New England. From the side of bartender, manager to supplier, and now at Horizon Beverage, Patrick continues to have a hand in both spirit education as well as cocktail development across the state of Massachusetts, with accounts looking to seasonally change their cocktail offerings, open new bar programs, interact and educate consumers and industry alike, and stay at the forefront of where the spirits industry is heading. Nice to have you with us today, Patrick. Thank you all for participating as judges for today's competition. I look so forward to hearing all of your feedback and questions on our contenders and their products. Now, to start our program, I would like to introduce today's host, Bill Rancic. Bill has been a part of the WSWA brand battle as a judge for several years and is a well-known American entrepreneur and restaurateur. Bill, I know you have very exciting news in the restaurant world. I would love to hear. Yeah. And thank you so much for being here and introducing today's contenders. Thanks, Bill.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And it's been so much fun over the years doing it in person. And I got to say, this summer, it's been great doing it virtually. It's hard to believe that we're already in August and it's flown by. So I'm excited about today. But yes, I do have good news. As Michelle mentioned, everybody, I am a restaurateur. I am the R in the RPM restaurant group. And on Friday, we announced that we are moving to Las Vegas. We're opening up an RPM Italian in Las Vegas in the Caesar Forum shop. So that will be our 8th location. We have RPM Seafood, RPM Steak, RPM Italian, Pizzeria Portofino, and we have them in DC, Chicago, now Las Vegas, and hopefully soon some other cities. So I'm hoping that I see some of the contenders today on our menus at some of the restaurants. So I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations as well.
And Bill, it's so great to hear about restaurants opening after everything that we've been hearing about the restaurant industry in the last year and a half. So wonderful, wonderful news.
It is great. Yeah, it's great news. And knock on wood, the restaurants are doing really well. People are back, they're out, they're excited. And I'm really excited about the future. So people are ready to start enjoying themselves and having drinks, and our outdoor patios and our indoor dining restaurants are just, knock on wood, doing really well. So that's exciting. And I'm also a partner in the Giuliana Prosecco brand. My wife and I and my partners in the RPM restaurant group launched Giuliana Prosecco about 3 years ago, and it's doing really well. And it's great to have that back on menus again. So with that said, It's been a privilege and an honor to host these events. Certainly as a judge, it was a little bit more pressure. So I want to thank all of our judges today. We have a great lineup of judges, incredible resumes, but your job is going to be very difficult. As someone who has walked in your shoes, it's very hard to narrow this down. So we're going to get this party started. But today is the Whiskey Scotch Bourbon Tournament, which is fantastic. One of my favorites, a lot of new exciting brands. And I'm ready to get this party started. Are you guys ready out there? Certainly hope so. So as you guys can probably imagine, this was one of the most competitive categories that we've seen this summer, with many unique brands that have entered. So we are excited to hear from 6 impressive companies who were selected to talk about their products, representing a wide variety of emerging brands. The contenders we're going to hear from today, we got first up from Horse Soldier Bourbon. Please welcome Scott Neal. Next, we have Emily Rhodes and Philip Rowley from 291 Colorado Whiskey. John Newton is here to tell us about Castle and King. From Rod and Hammer's Slow Stills, welcome Rodney Segelski and Hamish Hammer Marshall. That's funny, I have a friend who's a retired hockey player, his nickname's the Hammer. And then we have from Mythology Best Friend Bourbon, Scott Yates. And finally, from Black Whiskey, we have Michelle Corella. Wow, what a lineup. So we know the brands that are competing today. Let's learn more about them. Please welcome our first contender of this tournament, Scott Neal from Horse Soldier Bourbon. Horse Soldier Bourbon was made by a group of friends who banded together after years of service to our nation. Oh, that's a great story. I can't wait to hear it. Scott, please take it away, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, and thank you, WSWA, for hosting us. We're very excited to be part of this brand battle, and let's talk about the brand. As you mentioned earlier, we were just a bunch of friends who served together. We were at a unique point in history, the first Green Berets into Afghanistan after 9/11, and we came in on horseback, hence the name of our brand, Horse Soldiers. But let's talk about the brand. In 2015, we started going to craft distilleries all around the country and caught the bug on how to make small batches. We actually went into Scotland and then into Ireland, where we worked at distilleries. And finally, we created a partnership amongst all of us and launched the brand. We've been making this bourbon and laying it behind. We have about 11,000 barrels aging right now. So there's 3 things we'd like to talk about. That's number 1, we're authentic brand. We're not a Madison Avenue. It's us that do this. Our kids work here. As a matter of fact, if you look at our bottles, sometimes you could tell that the label's a little off. So we're very proud about who we are and that we're the ones that actually make this bourbon. The number 2 part is we're all American. And what I mean by that is we source all of our grains here in America. We use number 2 yellow dent, non-GMO bee pollinated corn, for example. Everything about our bottle, from the labeling and everything, is American except for one thing, and that's our cork. We still like the sound of when you pull the cork out of a good bottle of whiskey. And last, we're award winning. Imagine going through all of this, creating your mash bills. We have 3 mash bills, a higher rye bourbon and 2 wheated bourbons, and then you put it to bed. That's the hardest part about bourbon, is the aging process. It's just Mother Nature and Father Time. And so we've won over 50 awards so far to date, double golds in San Francisco, golds in New York spirits competitions, even international competitions. So we're very proud of that fact that, not only is this a true story, but really you can inspire to be anything. None of us knew anything about this industry when we started, and yet here today, we're in 13 states currently. We have a nice online distribution as well, so our customers can find us, whether it's through our social media or through a lot of our tastings. We're very proud of the fact that we'll go out to a lot of locations and we'll just announce on social media that we're there, and we'll do bottle signings, and we'll have folks all over the community, whether they served or their families were first responders, or they just want to come and talk to us. And the most thing they want to talk about is really what's on our label called Forged in Fire, which is our bottle molds. Our bottle molds were actually World Trade Center steel. And we sent them to the mold factory, the same one that created the steels in the 60s, and they molded our bottle. And if you just look everything about that, there's so many hidden features and storytelling, even down to our QR code, in which folks on the shelves can, open it up and see a video about the brand. This brand really was designed by Elizabeth, who's also a co-founder, the wife of my business partner, John Coco. And you could tell that she wanted bar jewelry. Something would stand out not only in the back bar, but you would be proud to have on your very own bar and show to everybody else. Right now, the 3 SKUs we have, the higher rye bourbon is a $44.95. Then it goes to our small batch wheated bourbon at $59.95 and our barrel strength at $79.95. Finally, we have one more SKU, and that is our Commander Select. That was nothing but really a charity bottle that we wanted to give back. We wanted to support, you could see the image of the statue at Ground Zero, and then it became very popular for supporting other veterans charities. Some of these bottles have brought up to $15,000 to $20,000 a bottle, depending on the charity auction we're at. And with that, I want to thank you for allowing us to tell you about my brand today.
Well, Scott, I first want to say on behalf of everyone on the panel and everyone at WSWA, thank you for your service, and thank you to your partners for their service. Certainly appreciate that. But I'm going to have the judges start grilling you now. So
I love to be grilled.
I'm going to bring Sly from RNDC. Sly, do you have any questions, any feedback, any comments for Scott?
Oh God, it's a little nerving to be the first one.
I know,
yeah, so great. Number one, great story, great juice. I enjoyed all 3 marks, definitely. And as you were telling your story, it's funny how a lot of times when we try and define craft, and I think as all the judges can say is with our companies, there are different factors, and we kind of define craft in different ways. And I think, with you, it's with your story, it's really what it means to me. It's that emotional, connection.
Right.
But that being said, your story was so fantastic. There were a lot of facts that I didn't get from the bottle, or I didn't get from your website, i.e. the World Trade Center with it being forged in steel and what have you. So how, my first thoughts were military exchange stores and what have you. A lot of brands come across, our desk where we say, okay, in these key states that have some type of military, as I said, commissary exchange stores, whatever terminology you might use. How are you going to reach or resonate with that consumer outside of? You mentioned you were in 13 states. How are you reaching and telling your story, making that emotional connection with the great stories you have? Have you had any barriers with it just being more of a military-based brand? Like, tell us a little bit more about your marketing plans when it comes to that.
So I think our positioning early on is we wanted to be an ultra premium brand, right? So if you look at our packaging, there's enough of a great backstory that you said it connects to you emotionally. If you think about it, there are 22 million veterans, but really they all have family members as well. But when we started wanting to position our brand, we started looking at fine dining, right? All of those locations in country clubs. In Las Vegas and New York City. So when we opened up these states, we really looked at the major metropolitan areas, and we focused a lot of our on-premise sales on steakhouses. All of those locations where, a great steak and a great bourbon with a great backstory. Now, what is our past? There's the horse soldier story. And sometimes we talk about that, but we really talk about the American journey. And that's us starting a business. And that's where you get more customers that relate to our brand, talking about, could I make bourbon, right? Could I live the American dream? And so that's how we reach outside of just the veteran first responder community.
That's great. Well, I love that because, I always tell the people who work in the restaurants, facts tell, stories sell.
Yes.
And essentially, when it's on a menu, you got to have a great story because the consumer today is much different than they were 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. So that's excellent. Any of our other judges have any questions?
Mm-hmm.
I can chime in. I'd love to kind of hear your growth strategy? Kind of, I know you're in 13 states and kind of you're laying down older juice and you're still kind of going, but where do you see kind of the growth either in the existing markets and then also, I guess, expansion beyond that?
So, you know, not only did we learn how to make great bourbon, we spent a lot of time talking to a lot of craft distillers, even some of the larger companies. And the number one thing they told us is to go deep, not wide. Really own your markets before you start getting into other markets. So when we first launched in Florida, we only had 3,000 cases. Well, we waited until the next state until we grew our brand and we had more name recognition. So as we go and we look at, okay, where is the next area that we can come to? Now think about horse soldiers. There's 5 of us working in this business. We can really get out amongst the community in these major areas and really tell our story. So for us and bourbon, do you have enough supply? How do you manage it for your growth? And how do you get your story out there for more and more people to understand it?
All right, well, thank you, Scott, for kicking us off.
Thank you.
Now we are going to go on to our second presenter, Philip Rowley from 291 Colorado Whiskey. 291 Colorado Whiskey is a small batch whiskey nestled in the shadow of Pikes Peak. I've actually been there. Pretty amazing place. A whiskey with a passion for the Old West. Philip, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It is so exciting to be presenting in front of the judges and the board today. I've been the VP of Business Development here with Distillery 291 for about 7 years now. What I love about our product and our brand is our storytelling. Michael Myers is our owner and founding distiller. September 11th, 2001, he and his youngest son were under the North Tower when the first plane hit. They moved here to Colorado. He was commuting back and forth for work, read an article about Hendrick's Gin and Sailor Jerry Rum, and he's like, I'm going to create a traditional Western whiskey. Quit his job as a photographer, poured everything in to learning about the distillation process, said it reminded him of the dark room. Michael created 4 different whiskey recipes, which I sent to you guys. We have our small batch bourbon and our small batch rye and our single barrel proof bourbon and rye mash bills that you guys are enjoying today. I think one of the big things that set us into the whiskey world was Michael telling his story. It was him for 3 years doing everything, making it, selling it, having it on the market, marketing it. He did everything in a 300 square foot production facility. We then later moved to a 7,200 square foot production facility where he started to build his team, bringing on his head distiller, Eric Jett, our CEO, Murray, and then myself. We are now a team of over 28 people here in the distillery in Colorado. We are now in 14,000 square feet. Michael has built and designed all of his equipment, his labels. In 2018, we won World's Best Rye Whiskey from Whiskey Magazine out of London, and since then have won many awards and continued our growth and our storytelling across the US in partnerships with small distribution companies, larger distribution companies, and we find ourselves in 13 states now, as well as Canada, Germany, and the UK with many partnerships and international brands. I think the one thing that really stands out about a lot of our bottle, we tried to steer away from shelf talkers and went with highlighting different awards that we've won. All of our awards come from blind tasting. So that will include our double golds from San Francisco, New York, Denver, our Spirit Business Journal Awards. And being able to tell Michael's story, I think, is one of the best parts of this. And one really unique thing about our whiskey as well is we are Aspen Stave finished. We're the only distillery in the world to do that. Michael created this process as he was driving up to Boulder one day and was just like, I want to do something totally Colorado, big, bold, unique, and beautiful. And I feel that really puts a signature on our whiskey. And so yeah, those are our 4 major expressions.
Excellent.
We do everything here, grain to barrel to bottle, and I know my time is almost up, so I will give it back to you.
Well, thank you, Philip. Great story. Certainly love the beautiful photography in the background. It's excellent. But now I'm going to bring back our panel of judges. And Monique, can you kick us off, please, for this round?
Absolutely. Philip, thank you. And thank you for sharing so many great expressions of whiskey. As these packages were getting here, I was like, you all went all out. You were kissing some butt on these packages, which
I mean,
thank you for that.
I want to be a judge again. This is, I don't get any of the samples here. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, it was really, really nice. So I love this, Philip, you talked about that kind of lean towards, going away from shelf talkers, which I think a lot of retailers, frankly, are forcing you away from anyway. People have kind of a look that they want in the store. So getting the stickers and everything on there, I think makes a lot of sense. And when somebody's looking at the bottle on the shelf, those are going to be the things, that kind of grab their attention and make them pick up the bottle, learn a little bit more about it. And I'm really enjoying the spirits. But as we transition back into the on-premise, I find these labels, I have to really look to see what I'm looking at. Is it bourbon? Is it rye? Why is this one different? I don't know. I guess I'm not just like, how do you really kind of push this agenda on premise where people are looking from 10 or 15 feet away and asking for the expressions? Do you have issues with that or?
So we did originally, and we actually did change our labels to meet the customer's demand, specifically in the on-premise world. A lot of bartenders were asking, this doesn't have rye on it. This is a little hard to read. So we expanded our labels. We did all of our small batch in silver. So that's one thing that we really tried to do, is allow the barrel proofs to be gold and to be that big, bold, beautiful showpiece. But with us, it's all about education. Myself, Hannah Thomas, my VP of wholesale sales and marketing, we really spend time with all of our on-premise accounts, our off-premise accounts, education for them to be able to share our story and connect with it and be as passionate as myself or anyone in our company. Really helps that confusion, because everyone kind of gravitates towards one of their favorites, and then that's what they start pouring on the bar.
Gotcha.
Natalia,
I can see how that would be impactful.
I'm going to move on to our next judge, Natalia from Breakthrough. Natalia, you have a question, I think?
Yes, thank you, Bill. And Philip, my question is regarding what you mentioned about the aspen wood finish. Can you talk a little bit about what that means? Because as soon as I read it, I thought, does he mean aspen barrel finish, or are there staves that are being put in the barrel? Can you talk about what that means?
Yeah, so we actually locally sourced the aspen right here in Colorado, and we toast it up. This is an example. And they actually go into the barrel, our Virgin American white oak barrels, for the last 3 weeks of the process. And those act as our only style of filtration. Michael wanted to create a Colorado whiskey that was big, bold, and beautiful. And he thought, what's more synonymous with Colorado than aspen? It's that softer wood, and that homage to that Tennessee style whiskey, where all Tennessee is maple charcoal mellowed. He wanted to use aspen in that same aspect.
Great. I think we have time for a very quick one. Patrick, take it away.
Philip, real quick, 2 quick questions. Small batch, how many barrels are we talking to consider a small batch? And second quick one, how many bottles do we have to buy to get one of those hats?
We got 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And I want one of the
24 of our barrels go into the small batch. So we are literally very small batch. And then my good friends at Sing Hat Company make all my hats for me. So go ahead and take a look at them on social media.
Hey, way to promote. Thank you, Philip. Appreciate it. Great presentation, and good luck in the competition. So now we're going to move on to our third contender, John Newton from Castle and Key Distillery. Think about this: a historic castle, a keyhole-shaped spring, driven from a scratch approach to product. Sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear it. So, John, tell us a little bit more about your products.
Appreciate it, sir. And really, what else do you need? Judging panel, appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you guys today and for this chance to talk a little bit more about Castle and Key. We really are a company that prides ourselves on this idea of honoring history but challenging tradition. So, a little backstory on our site. It was built by Colonel E.H. Taylor back in 1887 as the culmination of his life's work. I'm actually sitting here in Colonel Taylor's octagonal tower where he stored all of his yeast. And Colonel Taylor was making some fantastic whiskey on the site. This was the place where he also helped pass bottle Bourbon and pioneered a lot of the new, quote, modern whiskey making techniques of that day. But Colonel Taylor did a little bit more than just making fantastic whiskey on this site. He used this place as a show place. This really was the inception of the Bourbon Trail right here in Millville, Kentucky, way back in 1887, where Colonel Taylor, he was looking at what was happening at that point in time. And if you could afford it, you would drink scotch or you would drink cognac. Bourbon was seen as a lesser spirit, it was the commoner spirit. So Taylor wanted to elevate the perception of bourbon. And what better way to do that than by building his distillery to be this giant limestone castle, because he was, after all, creating a spirit that he said would be, quote, fit for royalty. And then he designed his water source to be this 140,000 gallon natural fed limestone spring in the shape of a keyhole that he said was the, quote, key to his bourbon, the key to his success. That is the key of Castle and Key Distillery. And thank you, Colonel Taylor, for that little marketing softball 130 years down the line. So Taylor owned the site up until Prohibition. After Prohibition was purchased by National, and then another 50 years down the line, the entire distillery fell into disrepair as the U.S. was going through the bust in bourbon. So when our two founding partners found the site back in 2014, it looked a little bit more like the Walking Dead and a little bit less like the Bourbon Disneyland that Colonel Taylor had built. But they just saw the potential of what existed here. And for such what was an iconic piece in bourbon history, really felt the drive to pull this back to life and to create something that was new and different. Colonel Taylor was an innovator. He was doing things differently back in his day. And so we're really trying to keep that same spirit of Colonel Taylor alive today at Castle and Key. If you happen to notice the logo on one of our display bins, actually replicates the shape of our spring. So there's all these little hidden architectural details that come back into all of the products that we are creating here at Castle and Key. Everything that we do is 100% from scratch. We do not source anything. If it has our name on it, we have crafted every drop of liquid that goes into that bottle. We use local farms, water from the spring, double copper distillation, and we always make sure to partner with the best in the business to make sure that the product that we're putting out there, that it is going to be the best product in the hands of that retail consumer, of that bartender, and that we're creating spirits that not only would you want to drink neat, but are going to play really well in cocktails. Giving you a really close-up look at the package, this is the Castle and Key Restoration Rye. And restoration really, of course, is one of the storytelling aspects in the process of bringing our site back to life. We're also doing something a little bit unique, where if you notice at the bottom of all the packages, we're going to have a vintage date. And so for us, it's a promise of consistency of quality versus consistency of flavor. Very much so a wine-derived approach, but we're a very consumer-driven company, and we're hearing this call for variety. Single barrels are the thing. This FOMO culture that exists today, how do we really lean into that and embrace this? So for every single bottle of Castle and Key, you may not always get the same flavor profile, but we promise it is always going to be the best possible expression of our whiskey at that point in time. So how do we grow? What's our route to market? Well, first of all, we are a pretty big facility. In terms of the craft world, we're going to lay down somewhere between 30 to 50,000 barrels. Contract distillation on the back end is a thing for us, so we make sure that all the bills are paid up front. Every bottle of whiskey is, every barrel of whiskey is paid for when it lays down, and that's going to give us a competitive price advantage, and also the complete control over what we're doing.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? I've got to wrap you up here. I'm so sorry. We got to keep this.
All good. We'll turn it over to the judges. I'll see. I'll let you guys hit me with the questions I didn't get to.
Well, thank you, John. Gerald, I think you have a question, so I'll let you kick us off, Gerald.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks, John. First of all, I really like the story of renovating the old distillery in the castle. I saw pictures of it. It's just a beautiful place. In your mission statement, you talk about a brand led by consumers, and how do you challenge the convictions of their palate? Can you tell me more about that, and how would I introduce that into the current markets that I'm in?
Absolutely. So consumers, retailers, everybody's looking for single barrels. They're looking for something that they can sell as being one-off and unique. So for this is the perfect example of something of a single barrel on a little bit larger scale. And it's also something that Castle and Key has the ability to own. Unfortunately, you know, or fortunately, most of the great brands out there, they can replicate a recipe, they can replicate yeast strains, but we really are able to take ownership over this blending process. And the fact that each one of the bottles, each one of these batches is going to be entirely unique. It's also going to add a collectability to it on the retail side. It's going to add a cool flight opportunity on the on-premise side as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sly, I think you have a question as well.
Yeah, thank you. Again, completely enjoyed what's in the bottle, so thank you for that. I have a question. I did jump on your website. It, you know, it was very basic. You know, love the, you know, the label, and as you said, it's going back to architectural details, which can sometimes be a little bit more mechanical. You know, the website was kind of the same feel. We know marketing and the importance that digital has. How can you tell us a little bit on how you're planning on how you're going to, you know, humanize your brand, and then monitor kind of its social presence? You know, if you're going to capture the attention of the consumer, how you're going to keep it? Because right now it seems from a marketing perspective, it's very basic, it's very plain, it's very, as you know, like you said, architectural, kind of mechanical, very kind of plain. I didn't see a lot of things. How are you planning on humanizing that brand? And then again, making a social presence? Like what are your digital and you know, social media plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we're more interested in building a consumer who is a lifelong brand fan of Castle and Key versus a one-hit, one-time customer. So for our site, physical location here in Millville, Kentucky, right on the Bourbon Trail, we're going to see over 50,000 consumers in a given year. And I'll tell you, the scope and scale of this property, photos do not do it justice. You come here, you drink a liquid, you hear the story, you're going to be a fan for life. You're going to go out, you're going to evangelize. Furthermore, when we go into individual markets, we do look to find influencers, micro-influencers. We're looking to do partner with key retailers, on-premise partners, creating influencer events, targeted marketing as well, looking at the major geographic regions. We're not just looking for the whiskey influencers as well, although we love those guys and they've been raving about what we're doing, but we're also looking for the lifestyle influencers, because really to build lifelong brands, you have to have that side of it. You have to be hitting those new entrants that are coming into it, and not just your lifelong whiskey drinkers. Does that answer your question, Sly?
I think so. I think so. I'm going to throw it over to Natalia. Natalia, we've got about 45 seconds, so if we can get a quick one in, I want to get to you.
Sure. John, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here. I was looking at videos of Castle Rock, and I believe you have the first female master distiller. Is that correct?
So Mary Ann Eve started with the team back in 2014 or 15, and when she did, she was first female master distiller bourbon. She has since left Castle and Key, going out pursuing an amazing career as a consultant and just absolutely rocking it out. But we absolutely continue to talk about her and her lasting legacy here at Castle and Key, the same way we talk about Colonel Taylor. And the liquid that you're enjoying was definitely distilled under her watch as well.
Well, you know, well, that brings me up to a follow-up maybe question or comment, is that what I really appreciate about the videos that I watched with her is her STEM background. And I think, you know, to answer Sly's question also about bringing a humanity to this, I think that's a great opportunity to bring bartenders down. You guys do everything from scratch. You got a great story there. When I watched those videos, I instantly wanted to go. And my first question was, do they do everything from scratch? Because it looks like it. So I commend you on that.
I appreciate that. And industry engagement is huge for us. That's how we win, is through the on-prem, through education, and also being priced right. You know, if you want to win with the bartenders, you've got to have a bottle that's in the right cost. And we try to get this in their hands for $25 every can.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, John. Thank you to all the judges. Hard to believe we are now halfway through our brands. God, it seems like today we're just flying, but it's halfway. So I hope you guys are all enjoying hearing the presentations and hearing the great feedback from our judges, but we are going to move on. Next up, we have Rod Segelski and Hammer Marshall from Rod and Hammer's Slow Stills, crafted by California surfer Rodney Rod Segelski and Aussie Jackaroo Hamish Hammer Marshall. Slow Stills was founded in 2019 to share passion for quality craft whiskey and the Central Coast. Well, I cannot wait to hear about this. Gentlemen, take it away, please.
We do things differently on the West Coast. Rod and Hammer's Slow Stills. Quality spirits crafted for the true, the bold, the authentic. Cut with the Pacific. This is how California does whiskey.
Love it. Love it.
Hey, well, welcome to Rod and Hammers here on the beautiful Central Coast of California. We're talking to you from our 5-acre facility that houses our restaurant, tasting room, music venue, and now brand new distillery. Maybe we can start by having my partner. I'm Rod, and this is my partner Hammer, and maybe he'll go over the foundation.
Thanks for having us here today. Rod and I are super stoked to be part of this, and our foundation is a great foundation because it was built on best friendship and a love of alcohol in general. Rod's from the US, I'm from Australia, and the foundation that we built was what brought us together, which was the Pacific Ocean. And everything we do with our whiskey, we cut with the Pacific Ocean, and that's what makes it special. And our goal was to basically bring our lifestyle to the whiskey, which is the Central Coast. It's bold, it's authentic, and I'm the cowboy, he's the surfer, and we blend those two lifestyles together. And we say that's how California does whiskey.
On that note, you know, we aren't novice. We understand branding and we understand building real products and foundation. We've worked really hard to differentiate this product. And as you said, we really want to be how California does whiskey. And so we thought, what can we do that's different that actually would appeal to the consumer and really get it? But, you know, I love surfing. Hamish and I, we go out to all sorts of areas for fishing. And we thought, hey, why can't we do like some of the Scottish brewers do? They pull bog water. We pull that ocean water. We pick the surf spot. We pick a beautiful destination. But we literally bring in water. We distill it. We then add that into our spirits to bring some of the soul of California into the whiskey. Maybe we can have you talk about
some of the whiskeys, our Rye Reserve, which we do from grain to glass. We start in the brewery, bring it through the distillery. Won a 93 with Wine Enthusiast. We just won in the top 100 spirits in the US, which was fantastic. Comes off 80 proof. We've also got our bourbon, which is really popular. Beautiful, smooth caramel taste, about 90 proof. And then we have the cask strength, which is same grain bill, but obviously pulled from cask, full strength, 112. And then the last few is our straight rye, which is a 95% rye, which is just fantastic. Beautiful pepper back of the palate. And then we just started these, which are doing great, which are our full strength RTDs, and we're doing our Manhattan and our old fashioned, which we actually do in our tasting room. We're now bottling, and they've been really well received in the marketplace.
Something that while we are on this, I can talk a little bit about packaging and positioning. And you can see as these close-ups, we really wanted to create a bespoke bottle, which we worked really closely with our board member. We're fortunate to have Stranger and Stranger Kevin Shaw as our member who helped us design this, and he's a premier designer. And what's really nice is he really captured what was important to Hammer and I. But I always love this bookshelf way. Sometimes you don't have enough room as restaurateurs ourselves and merchandising. You can't always fit all the bottles. This way, we're able to tell a true story and make it really clean, whether it's this way or that.
Great.
We also have beautiful displays that we work hard on.
Looks beautiful, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we gotta bring in the judges, but you did a great job. I love the camera work, love the packaging. I am going to bring Ryan in to kick us off with the Q&A. Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Hey, guys, great presentation, and really kind of like the package and everything you're doing there. The juice, I was tasting it. It's got, I mean, the rye, I'm tasting the rye right now. It's got a little spiciness to it and some stuff going, and then it's kind of got that mixture of age. Can you give me kind of the, I guess, the age profile of it and the barrel size and kind of those details?
Yeah, you're tasting the Rye Reserve. So the Rye Reserve is a small batch barrel, 5, 10, 15 gallon barrels that we do inside with All American White Oak. It's a 55%, 60% rye, and that we bring in, then barley, corn on top of that. It's got a really smooth taste. It's that caramel, pepper, vanilla taste, and it's been, like I said, really well received locally.
We're fortunate that we have our own 30-barrel brew house to be able to create the brew and the mash, and then convert it into these small batch barrels.
Yeah, definitely. You're saying age-wise, it's 12 months on, I guess.
It's anywhere from 1 year to 22 months, depending on the size of the barrel, and obviously the greater the surface area, the theory being the greater the age. So we're saying that the 5-gallon barrel is equivalent to a 6 to 8 year aged whiskey, just simply because of the surface area.
And we understand scalability. When we went to market, all of our core whiskeys are around $39 at retail. The Reserve is around $69. And we understand we can't make all of that, as we're only in 2019, we're 2 years old, but our scalability is there. We've already gone to market in California, and we understand that we need to source, not unlike many, and we're doing that, and we're blending it, and we're using that special blend plus the Pacific Ocean to make our product stand out.
Got it.
Wonderful. Any of our other judges have questions? Feel free to just chime away.
I gotta tell you guys, I felt a little scared when you said cut with the Pacific, because I thought maybe it's salt water, right? But obviously then you're distilling it. So for the longevity of the brand, do you see yourself graduating into larger casks and longer maturation? Because that's going to be the way you're going to have to catch the geek in me.
Yeah, obviously, again, what Rod said, we started making whiskey about 4 to 5 years ago. And right now we're having to source whiskey. We're making, obviously, the Rye Reserve and we are slowly going to bigger barrels, longer aging process, but it takes time. And so we're doing both at the same time. We're just about to put a lot of juice into 55-gallon barrels, which now they have to sit for 2, 3, 4 years. So it's a process. It's a lifelong sort of love and passion you got to be a part of. So we're slowly getting there.
Great. Patrick, can you do one final question for us? And we've got about a minute left.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, I just had, with the marketing, the slow still, the slow made on the bottle, can you just go more into that detail?
Yeah, well, so this is San Luis Obispo, California. It's called Slow. We own Slow Brew. That was our 32-year brew brand that we make beer. And so Slow Brew led to Slow Stills, but Slow Made worked. I think we like that we're taking our time. It is small batch, and as we grow, it's a good vibe. And we're pretty well known throughout the state for our for San Luis Obispo.
And it blends well with the lifestyle that we're trying to represent and bring into the soul of the whiskey.
Yeah, we just really like the idea that California doesn't do a lot of whiskey. We should get into it. The fact that we had the brewery, we can make beer. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. And as a fellow surfer, Rod, I love the story. So we'll have to get you into wake surfing. I've switched to wake surfing because I'm here in the mountains in Idaho. But awesome story. Thank you, gentlemen. Best of luck. And we are going to have to move on now. So next up, we are going to hear from Scott Yates from Mythology Best Friend Bourbon. Mythology Best Friend Bourbon is a blend of a 15-year-old Kentucky bourbon and 2 high rye bourbons aged 2 to 5 years. Scott, can't wait to hear the story.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, WSWA. And it's great to see everyone else's presentation as well. Look forward to drinking all your whiskey. It's good education today. So my name is Scott Yates. I'm the founder and president of Mythology Distillery. We're a Colorado-based distillery, founded it in 2018. I was inspired to start this on a backcountry ski trip, skiing lines, coming down, drinking whiskey in the afternoon, enjoying cocktails with friends. That's really what embodies our culture at Mythology. And it's really what our brand is all about. Whether it's a backcountry ski trip, could be a rafting trip, could be hiking, or could be traveling. It's just our brand is all about coming together after a day, sharing stories over good whiskey or cocktails, making cocktails for friends and sharing stories. And that's what Mythology is about. So the name Mythology is about creating your own personal mythology with those around you based on experiences and sharing stories. So, obviously to us, we felt that establishing a brand was very important. It gets that first purchase from a customer. You can see that on our packaging, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but it gets that first instinctual, hey, I want to be a part of this. But what really matters is creating a great product. That's where we've been really successful in creating a following. And so what we did is we established this brand, and then we brought on a very experienced team. We started with the former head of production at High West Distillery and have since evolved to the former head distiller of Blom Brothers, who lead our production. When we started this, we also focused on how do we stand out from the crowd? How do we create something unique and interesting? And so we do that. Our distillery we're a gin distillery, and we are whiskey blenders. And it's very thoughtful how we approach both. Our goal is to impart unique and interesting flavors in each one of our products that we serve. And that's where we end up getting this following. Someone tries it and they say, wow, this is really unique. I'm pulling different layers. So I'll talk about our Best Friend Bourbon, which we're presenting today. We do have other whiskeys in our lineup, but Best Friend is really what we're here to showcase. So Best Friend Bourbon, I'll start with the packaging. For those at home, you can kind of see up there. All of our packaging is half animal, half human. We have fun with it. We want our packaging to tell a story, and it's really resonated well with customers, this whole discover your spirit animal. On the back of the bottle, the whole kind of tying it together. For Best Friend Bourbon, we tell a story about a farmer and a dog coming together, working the field every day, coming together on a porch, watching a sunset, enjoying great bourbon with good company. Again, it's kind of reflective of us and who we are. My dogs are typically not too far from my side, and I also drink quite a bit of bourbon. And then as far as our blends, we have videos on our website. We go to tastings, festivals, everything. We promote how we're blending whiskey to create unique layers. And then we also put the blend on the side of the bottle. So the side of the bottle for this will explain the origin of the whiskey and the mash bill of each whiskey. So as far as that, what is this blend? So Best Friend Bourbon, we start with a 2-year bourbon. We really like it. It is young, but you're pulling out these really nice honeycomb flavors, a little bit of wildflower on there. If you were to drink it neat, it would be too hot. I'll be the first to admit that, but in a blend, we like contributing that honey to it. We then blend that with a 5-year MGP bourbon that's high rye content. It adds this really nice balance of cinnamon and also some florals on the nose. And then we round it out with a 15-year Kentucky bourbon. That 15-year Kentucky bourbon adds a ton of richness to it, pipe tobacco, deep, rich vanilla. This makes for a great whiskey neat, whiskey on the rocks.
Awesome. Well, Scott, awesome story. I'm going to bring Gerald in to start with the Q&A. Gerald?
Well, thanks, Scott. You answered my question about the blend, so thank you. So my other question, you talked about mythology. You talked about through travel and connecting with others. How do I connect your brand to my local market on and off premise?
Sure, that's a great story. So, we're about experiences. We're based in Colorado. 100 million tourists come to Colorado to share in the outdoors. And that's what we're out there promoting. We're promoting, hey, you come to Colorado, you are experiencing hiking or travel or skiing, whatever it might be. We want to bring that back to you. Bring a little bit of that outdoor lifestyle that you went out, you had fun with your family, you had fun with your friends, and then bring it back home in a quality product.
Natalia, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a comment and also a question. The comment that, Scott, I think you might appreciate, when I first looked at this bottle and I came in with fresh eyes, not knowing exactly what to expect, but what I think is really cool, and I don't know if you and your team have considered this, but there's this concept of having an infinity bottle at home. And the concept is that you and your friends start building a bottle yourself of all your leftover whiskeys, and you start combining it to create your own blend. And that's what I thought. I thought this is like a best friend infinity bottle. So I think that's really cool. And that's the concept that I think of with Mythology. Not sure if you guys have considered that as an angle. But my question for you is, since this is a best friend bourbon, why did you put the word best friend on the back? Is there a reason for that? Why not put it right in the very front of the bottle?
Front and center. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So every one of our products, this is our Hell Bear American whiskey, and it's a Badger, which to us is like a Hell Bear. So we name the products, but we really want it to stand out on the shelf as a bourbon. The best friend is more how we're tying in the brand side of it. Hey, here's the brand story. It's about coming together with your best friends. And that's what we use for a lot of marketing. But at the root of this is a blended bourbon. And that's what we really want it to be on the shelf and stand out as.
Thank you. Hey, Monique, can I go to you for a question, please?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill. Hey, I really appreciate Scott having the transparency and the blend on here, and now knowing a little bit more about the heritage and the history of the people that you brought on board, it makes even more sense. How are you, so you're blending this for now and you're a gin distillery. Are you also distilling your own base bourbon and or rye? And how are you going to start to, if you are, integrating those into these blends?
That's a great question. We get asked it all the time. We are gin distillers and whiskey blenders. And we're very, very careful about that because that's what our model is. We feel like the most interesting whiskey that you can get on the market. There's great grain to glass whiskey on the market, but we feel the market's fairly oversaturated with it. This is the ability, and there's also great source whiskey on the market, but it's also oversaturated. This is the ability to say, hey, here's a blended whiskey that is very carefully thought through, like a chef at a great restaurant thinks through each dish that they prepare. We're thinking through each whiskey that we prepare and then creating a consistent blend that we're bringing to market.
That's an awesome metaphor. I can totally appreciate it. You don't have to grow every single thing or raise every single animal, but if the dish that you put out on the table makes sense, that's really thoughtful. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Any of our other judges have questions? Actually, our time is up, so we timed that one perfectly. Thank you, Monique. So good. So thank you so much, Scott. Next up, we have Michael Corella from Black Whiskey. Black Whiskey is actually one of the first whiskeys to made from the Andes. They use black corn and grains from the Andes. Wow, this is pretty cool. So Michael, please take it away.
All right. How you guys doing?
Great.
Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I just want to introduce myself and say first, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Some great presentations. I'm going to talk about three things. I wish I had more time because there's tons of things we could talk about here. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about our bottle, our whiskey, Black Whiskey. Then we're going to talk about the idea of Andean whiskey. And finally, I'm going to get into some of our accelerated aging techniques that we do. Unfortunately, my wife's not here, but she and I are the founding partners of the distillery. About almost 6 years ago, we came up with this idea to use Andean black corn in the making of a whiskey. And interestingly enough, Scott had in the last presentation had some good comments, which I kind of had reflected on way back when, is why enter into a saturated market? 5-6 years ago, the craft distilling market was super saturated, I think. But we came to the conclusion that with a new type of corn, a new grain, we would have a niche entry into the market. And in this case, this kind of corn, Indian black corn, it only grows at 6,000 feet or above. And in our case, we have a group of farmers that are planting and harvesting at 10,000 feet above sea level. So this is super cool. If you check this out, this is our bottle. All right. We also do a bunch of other products. I'm not going to focus on the other products, but over the years, we've rolled out some new products. Let's get back to the whiskey though. Our whiskey is a bourbon style whiskey. We are the only distillery in South America making a bourbon style whiskey. In this case, our mash bill is 60% Andean black corn, 30% malted wheat, and 10% malted barley. And why all that wheat? One of my favorite types of bourbons are wheated bourbon. So I'm going to make something that I like, basically. Another interesting part of our process is, we do everything from grain to glass. Everything is basically sourced by us. We cook. We have a 10,000 liter mash tun. We have 4 or 5,000 liter fermenting tanks here. And back behind me, you can see we have a 6,000 liter still. Part of our process, we add 5 different types of bacteria strains, lactobacillus, at the end of our fermentation, which gives an interesting added flavor profile. So a combination of the black corn and the bacteria give us something that's very unique. We're going to kind of walk around a little bit here so you can see a little bit of the distillery. I don't know if you can see behind me. We have 4 different stills, a large still here, and you'll see the other stills as we keep going. I want to switch over to what is Andean whiskey. On our bottle, we have a little seal that says Andean whiskey, and we're working with the Peruvian government, and hopefully within the next 6 months, we're going to get registered Andean whiskey as a new class of whiskey. You have Scotch whiskey, you have Japanese whiskey, you have American whiskey. Andean whiskey will be essentially like a bourbon, obviously not made in the United States, but it'll be 51% or more Andean corn. There's a bunch of different types of Andean corns. And the remaining grains, which are not malted grains, would have to be Andean grains. So that's a really cool thing. Once we get that, we're hoping to get a denomination of origin for our black whiskey made in Peru. Actually, I'm in Peru, South America. The last thing I want to talk about, all of our whiskey is aged in barrels, in full-size barrels, for approximately 4 years. But in order to accelerate that process, we've developed this set of equipment right here based on the patents from Lost Spirits, from Cleveland Whiskey. And essentially, really quick, we have a pressure vessel that we can heat up, that we can apply vacuum, suck off the high volatiles, pass it over here to this set of lights. And essentially, I'm told I'm running out of time. But any questions about that, I'm happy to answer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Great job. Great job. I'm going to bring Patrick in to kick us off with the Q&A. Patrick?
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, Michael, I mean, where to start, man? This is a cool thing. I didn't know anything about the legalities of Peruvian, black whiskey. Is there any, I mean, you said you're aging it in wood. Is there any specific woods or different woods you're aging it in? And then, you mentioned about the accelerated aging. So if you're saying approximately 4 years, what are you saying that ages out of that machine you're by?
Well, good question. Good question. I'm a bourbon drinker. So we are importing American white oak barrels from Black Swan and from Kelvin Cooperage. They work great. We're super happy with them. We fill those barrels, and after about 6 months or so, we pass it through this set of equipment. And you ask yourself, is there really a difference here? In taste and everything? Absolutely there is. But we've run samples from the before and the after through gas chromatography. And there's a bunch of indicators that I'm sure everybody's familiar with, furfural and this and that, a whole bunch of stuff. And if you compare the before to the after, our after is more like a 10 to 12-year-old whiskey. Now, we're not saying that to anybody. We're not marketing like that. We don't put an age statement on the bottle. But the fact of the matter is the process works and our end product is awesome.
Great. Ryan, can I kick it over to you for a question?
Sure. I was going to kind of piggyback off the maturation process. Right now you're saying 6 months in barrel, then you're kind of doing
No, wait. That was after 6 months, we pass it through here, then it goes back into the barrel. So it has a total lifespan of about 4 years in the barrel.
Got it. Okay. So you're doing that and then putting it back in the same barrels, I guess?
Absolutely. We're not avoiding or trying to avoid the normal barrel aging period. We're just augmenting, accelerating the whole process using this set of equipment.
Got it. And so, I mean, that's the plan is to keep that part of your process indefinitely, or is that just a time period standpoint from?
No, it works great. So it's now part of our process. This set of equipment here, we refill it basically every week because it's a week-long process. Unfortunately, we can only process 3 barrels a week. So it's not that many. At a certain point, we're going to have to get some more pressure vessels and lights, et cetera, et cetera. But right now we're filling about 1,000 barrels a year, about 800 barrels a year at our current production rate.
And where are you being distributed outside of Peru or just in Peru right now?
Oh yeah, good question. We are in Taiwan, we're in Australia, we're in Germany, We're in Peru, and a couple months ago, about 3 months ago, we got the States. We're in South Florida, we're in New York, we're in Chicago, and we're all over Texas.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
We've got about a minute left. Sly, can I hit you up for a question, please, or a comment? This will be our last question of the day.
Yeah, by the time
no pressure, no pressure.
Okay, so without putting a lot of thought, because I was so busy writing notes, because this again is a new all this. How are you knowing your audience best? Like with so many, you know, being Peruvian and you being in Taiwan and Australia and Germany, and then you're also in the U.S. Like how are you knowing your audience best when you have, you know, so many different, you know, outside the U.S. and taste profiles and expectations are different.
That's a really good question.
We got 30 seconds, Michael, 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's really tough. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Fortunately, my wife right now is working in Miami promoting the brand. My partner lives in Texas. He's promoting the brand there. My other partner is going to Bar Convent in New York, and every market is completely different. In Texas, the whiskey clubs are huge. In Miami, it's more the bar restaurant scene. In South America, it's also completely different. Taiwan has a very high-end whiskey market. So trying to adapt to all the different markets has been a challenge, but we're working hard at it. My wife and I have dedicated our lives to this now, so we're all in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I want to thank all of our contenders today, certainly all of our judges for their time. The presentations were great. I got to say, this is at the top of the list for all the presentations the whole summer. So this is a fun category, and certainly I learned a lot about all the brands today. So thank you guys. But now I have the job of sending our judges off to do the difficult task of deliberating on this category winner, who will move on to the championship round on Tuesday, September 14th. That is a great question. And while they deliberate, I would also like to ask you to vote for the brand at home that you would like to see win the People's Choice Award for today based on pitch, bottle. The vote is popping up on your screen right now, if you can see that. It should be right there. And while the judges deliberate, we are fortunate enough to hear from Dale Stratton again from Sip Source. Dale will spend a few minutes sharing that valuable information on the whiskey and scotch and bourbon category that WSWA has obtained. And I guess, Dale, we were talking a little bit earlier, you've got some current information here, fresh off the press. So please tell us more.
Thank you very much, Bill. And we have updated our data. The June data is in, so we are looking at an added month here. And as we go through this, we can see that the trend of spirits outpacing wine continues to be the case. Spirits are growing at 7.9%. These are 12-month rolling numbers, while wine is still down there, just down about 3%. Consumer definitely continuing to move towards the spirits category. Next slide, please. Where we really see a jump here, and the big thing here with June was the acceleration back in the on-premise with the spirits category especially. We're now seeing that on a 12-month rolling basis in the on-premise, spirits are only down 4.7% in the on-premise. That's that bottom line on the left. Wine is starting to get there, but it is definitely lagging the progress that we're seeing in the on-premise on spirits. So good to see that, Bill. I know that's good for you and your restaurants, that people are getting back out there and frequenting our restaurant partners. Next slide, please. The way these slides read, the bars represent share, the dots and the numbers represent the trend on June ending 12-month rolling. I've put boxes around the different whiskey categories, whiskey segments, and we can see now that all whiskey segments are back in growth. All of these classes are coming back. Scotch and Irish especially took a big hit during the pandemic, the kind of a double hit of tariffs and pandemic. But now they're all growing very, very nicely. Cocktails continue to really dominate, ready to drink cocktails, doing well. But the whiskey category across all of these classes is very, very solid. Next slide. Going down to the next level within the whiskey category, we can see also that Canadian growing 6.9%, bourbon growing 5.8%. But you go down there a little bit and you can see flavored whiskey is doing very well, growing 11.4%. We're seeing flavors across all spirits categories do well. Off a small base, rye growing at 7.2%. So we know that that rye segment remains very, very popular, and we're seeing it come back very strong. Next slide. And that really kind of speaks to the price segment as well. Going from least expensive to most expensive, left to right, we can see that the ultra premium segment in the whiskey category is the largest. And it's also growing the fastest, growing at 13.2%. So we're seeing great trends there. As people come in, back out into the restaurants, we're seeing some very good activity. Retail continues to do very well here as well. Next slide. Last slide we'll look at is looking at some of this from a geographical standpoint. And the yellow bar represents on-premise trends. The darker bar represents retail off-premise trends. And we can see total spirits on the left and the whiskey category in general on the right-hand side. What sticks out to me here on this is that we're seeing the whiskey category not grow as quickly in the on-premise as other spirits. That tells me that there's still good upside here to come in the coming months for the whiskey category. As the restaurants get reopening and get back up to full speed, I would expect for us to see the whiskey category catch up and even grow faster. So I think the future looks very good for the whiskey category and certainly for the brands that we saw today. So with that, Bill, I'll hand it back over to you.
Dale, thank you. Always great information. I am now very excited to announce today's winners. Wow. And I got to tell you, this was tough. It was neck and neck photo finish, much like we were seeing at the Olympics on these track and field events. So with that said, first up, our People's Choice winner that all of you, our viewers, selected is Horse and Soldier Bourbon. So congratulations. Our drum roll. Sorry, I should have waited for the drum roll. But Horse Soldier Bourbon, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We're honored.
Well, congratulations. Now we are going to move on to the category winner for whiskey, scotch, and bourbon. Wow, this was close. I got to tell you. Photo finish. The winner is, drum roll please, Castle and Key. Congratulations to Castle and Key.
Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Cheers.
That's great. Well, congratulations, guys. And thank you, obviously, to all the judges, everyone who participated today. Certainly a big congratulations to both winners. Awards will be mailed to you in the next few weeks. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who participated today. You all have great, unique products. Certainly look forward to seeing them. Hopefully, I'm going to see some of them on the shelves of our bars at the RPM restaurants. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the judges, our wholesaler experts, for your thoughts, questions, feedback today. Certainly very valuable for all who involved. So I hope everyone had a great experience throughout today's program. For everyone viewing, all of our contenders information can be found in the online brand battle directory. The link to the directory has been placed in the chat box, but also can be found on the tournament's website. We'd also like to make you all aware, but especially members of the media that are in attendance today, that there will be a category winner virtual press briefing following this broadcast. You'll hear from today's winners about their experience, and you'll be able to ask them more questions to support your reporting. You can find a link to this briefing in the chat box or email alena@wswa.org. That's alena@wswa.org for more information. Again, we want to thank our sponsors of today's tournament, 750 and Beverage Media Group, as well as all of our other tournament supporters, so many of them. We hope you enjoyed today's program and that you'll watch other Tournament Tuesday competitions this summer. Next week, we'll hear from all 6 contenders from another popular category. And our final category, cordial, liqueur, and after dinner drink. Register at the link in the chat box or online today to save your seat. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Honor and a privilege to be able to host today. And I will see you all again very soon. Thank you.